Hello, everybody. I like to start this video by saying that this is going to be a different video than you guys have heard me make in the past. Unfortunately, I am a young adult, and as such, I am in college. And due to the nature of college, we are now in finals weeks. Because of that, I do not have a lot of time to create and edit and structure my videos like I usually do. So this time, I'm going to have what I'm essentially calling a fireside chat, where I kind of just talk and rant about broad discussions on the lore that I agree with or disagree with or would just like to talk about. Before I get into this video, I'd like to do some housekeeping stuff. I'm going to have a timestamp on screen if you'd like to skip over this and just get into the stuff that I'm talking about. But for those of you that don't want to skip, I want to thank all of you that are here. I recently just hit a few milestones in my YouTube channel, and I'd like to talk about them. I recently got a cumulative 3,000 views on all of my YouTube videos. Now, when I say that, a lot of you are probably thinking, okay, what's so special about that? But on a platform like YouTube, it's very, very easy to dehumanize people simply because of how large the numbers are. You know, you look at PewDiePie, what does he have, like 60 million subscribers? You look at Markiplier, which has like 20 or 30 million subscribers. And then you hear me talking about, I have a video that has 3,000 views. And it seems like nothing. But I have probably not talked to or had a conversation with 3,000 people in my entire life. You know, like there's about 2,000 people that went to one of my high schools. I probably talked to 100 of them, maybe 150. I could not say for certain I've ever talked to 3,000 people before. So now, there's more people than I've ever interacted with in my life, watching my videos and enjoying my content. Yeah, it sounds dumb, and I'm sure some people are going to roll their eyes when they hear me say this, but it's mind-blowing to me that this is happening, that people care enough about my videos to keep watching them. On top of this, I have 60 subscribers. Again, that is a tiny number. That is insignificant. But when I made this YouTube channel, I made myself 3 promises. Firstly, I promised that if I ever got to a point where I get a sponsor, I'm only going to accept it if it's something that I actually already use or play. I'm not going to change myself for a sponsor. Secondly, I decided that I was never going to do clickbait titles or thumbnails. You know, I'm not going to do the craziest lore of Warhammer or every single thing you need to know about this chapter or, you know, have the YouTuber face of the giant eyes and mouth agape. It's stupid to me. I dislike it. But my last promise was that I was never going to ask people to like or subscribe or go down into the comments simply to farm interaction. If you watch any of my videos, go out through all of them. I've never asked people to like or subscribe. The only time I've asked people to go to the comments is when, you know, I'm asking your opinion about maybe some lore I'm talking about, if you disagree with it, or if there's something you want to add that I missed. The reason I'm saying this is because the whole point of these videos is to show people lore and expand upon people's knowledge of the lore. So this means that all 60 people that have subbed to me, all of the 3,000 views that I've gotten in my videos, all of the 30 likes that I've ever gotten and a dozen comments that I've received are all from people that genuinely were so interested in my content and liked my content so much that they did it of their own will and their own volition. All of the 60 people that are subscribed to me looked at my videos, watched them, and said, yeah, I want to see more of that. They didn't subscribe simply because I said, if you like this channel and want to support, go down below. The point is not to shill. The point is not to create some massive corporate entity of lore videos. The entire point is that I want to expand upon people's knowledge of a franchise and series that I hold very dear to my heart. And all of the 60 people that have subscribed to me feel the same way. And so from the bottom of my heart, thank you. It's been a blast so far, and I'm really enjoying doing this. But that's enough of the touchy-feely. That's not what you guys are here for. Let's get into the lore. So this first fireside chat is going to talk about 40k theories. These are fan theories that have been circulating online. You know, if you look up 40k theories, it'll be like the ones that show up. It'll be the Reddit posts. You might even find it in, some YouTube videos. The ones specifically in this video are going to be the most egregious that I've found. There has been a very massive influx recently of 40k fans, coming from Space Marine 2 or Hammer and Bolter, or talking about Secret Level, the show that's coming out 4 days after this recording. So there's tons of stuff that's going on. People are getting really excited and getting very into it. But that also means there's a massive influx of people that us in the community call visitors. These are people that, they're really into it. They probably played through Space Marine 2. So they go onto wiki pages and read a bunch of stuff and read a whole bunch of stories and then think that they've created some massive mind-altering revelation about the lore and the story and the history of Warhammer. There are lots of people that write theories online with, I've seen tens of thousands of views, that are just inherently wrong. I've always said in all of my videos, there is no right answer or wrong answer when it comes to the canon of 40k. It can be whatever you want it to be. In the last video I made about the rise and fall of humanity, there's a person in the comments that said that their headcanon about the Men of Iron was that they simply saw us as weak and didn't need us anymore, so they tried to revolt. That's fine. That's a really cool idea, Like I said, Arnold Schwarzenegger would be proud. But for people like me, which are content creators, and I hate the term, but influencers, there has to be some level of responsibility when it comes to fact-checking and understanding the things that you're talking about. So people that don't, they read a few wiki pages or maybe they read a short story, and then they post a theory online which directly contradicts a lot of already commonly held and known beliefs. But since we're getting this massive influx of people, they're reading them and thinking of them as true. So now we have theories like the ones I'm going to talk about that are just spread everywhere for essentially no reason. They're not correct, they're not based on truth, they're just misleading. So I'd like to talk about some of the most egregious of these and really stop this problem. But again, let's just get started. First off is that Warhammer the Old World, Age of Sigmar, and 40k are all in one timeline. That's not true. As stated in a previous video, White Dwarf has clearly defined these settings as different worlds. They've said, and it was, I believe, July of 2018, White Dwarf, that they said that all of the gods within all of these settings are the same and that the gods are multiversal. The very word they used was multiversal. That means that these gods exist in different universes. They exist in different dimensions. That inherently means that they don't all exist in one place. In Warhammer Fantasy, the warp is approached in a fundamentally different way. It splits, warp energy and chaotic energy into 8 specific branches. It says Ulgu, like the gray winds. There's the emerald winds, there's the wind of the beast, the winds of flame. It's broken up into tons of different categories where different colleges of magic in the Imperium, which are founded by, Magnus the Pious and Teclis, study all of these different forms so they can utilize them. You don't have wizards that can do fire magic and then cast some spells from the Lore of Shadows. It's fundamentally different. This is a difference that entirely doesn't exist in 40k. In 40k, the warp is just the warp. It does everything. Someone could shoot lightning from their hands and then see into the future. It's just different. So trying to tie all of these different settings into one place really cheapens them all, because it ruins such a cool system like the Winds of Magic and simply says, oh, it's just the warp, it's just how it works because people think it is. It really kind of sucks. I totally understand the desire for it to be the same universe. There was a long time where I thought that Age of Sigmar and Warhammer Fantasy just occurred within the warp and within the Eye of Terror. There's, tons of all these forces and all these demons and of course obviously the chaos gods, but that the fantasy world was just some small fraction of the whole world, But it's just not true. It's a great headcanon, it's a great theory, but it is not real. Second theory I want to talk about is the idea that the Tyranids are running from something. This is a huge, huge, huge theory that tons of people online quote. This is the danger of, theorists and lore nerds like me creating theories without any lore basis. As, again, it gets perpetuated and spread until thousands and thousands and thousands of people have heard about it, and lots of them think of it as canon, as real. Like most theories, this theory doesn't have any evidence for or any evidence against it. It's just an interesting idea. But for me, it really doesn't make sense for what the Tyranids are and how Games Workshop have created them as a race. The theory essentially boils down to the idea of either the Tyranids are in fight or flight mode as they invade the Milky Way. If they are in fight mode, that's when they're, coming to the Milky Way looking for food, looking for sustenance, because they were called by the Pharos beacon. Flight mode states that they're simply running from something greater that's, killing them off, so they're trying to desperately flee somewhere else. But the Tyranids are entering the Milky Way in tons of different directions. We have Hive Fleet Leviathan that's coming from under the galactic plane. We have Hive Fleet Moloch, which is coming from the galactic north, Hive Fleet Hydra from the galactic south. They're spread out everywhere throughout the Milky Way galaxy. So if they're running from something, then that means that something has to be throughout the entire galaxy to make them all run away at some point. Again, they're a hive mind species, so maybe the hive mind just said, let's all, meet here and regroup so we can launch some big counter invasion. But that's not really how Tyranids work. The first Hive Fleet Behemoth, charged into Macragge headfirst and shattered itself upon Macragge. Yeah, it basically wiped out the Ultramarines, and yeah, it basically wiped out everything else within the Ultramar system. But it was still obliterated, and today is left only as small fragments that don't really threaten anybody. Hive fleets will bash their heads into an immovable object until something breaks. So why would they simply start running away from something? Tyranids eat everything. They evolve to eat everything. The most powerful thing about the Tyranids is their evolution. So you're telling me there's something that they can't evolve against? That doesn't make sense. Tyranids eat Necrons, which are built of essentially just metal. Tyranids have started to evolve to where they can fight chaos. They're evolving ways that they just simply nullify warp energy and chaotic powers so they can start to fight off chaos. Do you understand how crazy that is and how monumental? And now you're saying, oh yeah, there's something else in the galaxy that they're just running away from. The Tyranids are fighting off chaos right now. What the hell could there be in the universe that's scarier than that? Essentially, the theory relies on a massive power shift that's saying that there's something in the universe that, can obliterate the Milky Way like it's nothing. But why does that need to exist? Again, like the first theory, it kind of just cheapens the whole story. Because so what? The Imperium's going to rail against the dying of the light for 10, 12,000 years. And then, 10,000 years in this future, something's going to come and just wipe it all away? Then what was the point in the first place? There was no big galactic final stand, no rage against the dying of the light. It's just, oops, hee hee hoo hoo, there's something that we don't know about that wipes everyone out. It's an idea that really just spoils the idea of Tyranids for me, and really just makes the entire setting pointless. Why are we even fighting if the Tyranids are running from something? A much more likely theory, in my opinion, and one that I find still joyable within the setting, is that the Tyranids that have arrived in the Milky Way are simply here because they're the fastest. This has kind of been accidentally proven over the last few years and few editions, as because every new edition, Games Workshop creates a new Hive fleet that enters the system. Obviously the marketing strategy of Games Workshop is that the more options and the more differences they can create within their setting, that it'll create, more creativity and more mini sale models. This is why we have chapters and not legions, The Horus Heresy is cool, but it didn't sell very well because there's only, 18 options. But if you're selling chapters, that's hundreds of options, hundreds of differences that people create and homebrew and do whatever they want with. So with hive fleets, of course they're going to have a dozen different types of hive fleets with different color patterns and different play rules and all these different things because it behooves them. But the hive mind is a race that's spread so massively out throughout the universe that it's again entering the Milky Way in 4 separate directions. From under the Milky Way, from above it and south of it and to the east of it. It's everywhere. So imagine if the Tyranids are some giant universe-spanning race that have gone through multiple galaxies and have now all culminated in the Milky Way because it's just so much more populated than other galaxies. Again, it's similar to the first theory that, they're running from something, because there's some massive ultimate threat that could, wipe out the entire Milky Way. But the idea is that since the Tyranids keep trickle feeding their races and their hive fleets into the Milky Way, that there is a chance that the Imperium could fight back, but it'll be so massively scarred by it that it'll take, more time than the Imperium has to rebuild. It's again that very theory and the very premise of Warhammer 40k, where the world is doomed. There's nothing we can do to stop the downfall. All we can do is fight back as harshly as we can. And even if we win, it'll just hasten the eventual downfall. To me, this is much more lore and setting appropriate, while also kind of keeping that same idea of, there's something out there way off in the distance that is coming and we can't really prepare enough for it. Lastly, there's a theory that there is a civil war going on in the Alpha Legion, with half supporting the Imperium and the other half supporting Chaos. This theory smacks of someone that hasn't read any Alpha Legion story, specifically in the Horus Heresy series, and has instead, just read the wikis or read books where the Alpha Legion just appears for a brief amount of time. They might have read the Siege of Rocks, where there's a Alpha Legionnaire, which, masterminds the whole chaotic invasion and everything else, and they're saying, oh, well, they're bad. But then they read the wiki and they hear about them, helping people in... what's that book called? Shroud of Night, where they, help, Imperial citizens flee into the webway. And they're like, oh, obviously there's a difference, in here. There's, half doing something and half doing something else. But this is a theory that's entirely spawned by a misconception on how the Alpha Legion works. The Alpha Legion and the Word Bearers are two of the more complex chapters, of the legions in 40k lore. And as such, people that are just now getting into it, people that are just now reading the stories and the wikis, can only really talk about them in very broad, general strokes. The Alpha Legion is my favorite Traitor Legion because of just how complex they are, but that complexity is often lost under a fundamental misunderstanding of how they operate. Everyone knows that each Primarch fulfills, a different task. Rust is an executioner, Magnus is the psychic might, Corax is the stealth assassin. So, what does Alfarius and Omegon do? Try to answer the question, I'm curious. I'll give you a few seconds. What's the point of Alfarius? What does he do that no other Primarch can do? If you answered just, be sneaky and use subterfuge, that's what the Raven Guard does. That's what the Word Bearers, did with the other legions. How are they different? The answer is because this is only part of the equation of the Alpha Legion. The Alpha Legion are the ultimate failsafe not for the Imperium, but for humanity. In the novel Head of the Hydra, Alfarius attempts to assassinate the Emperor. He isn't, actually trying to kill his father at this point. He is simply trying to prove that the Custodes aren't as efficient as they believe themselves to be. The point of Alfarius and the Alpha Legion, or the Ghost Legion as they were known in the Heresy, is to root out weaknesses and problems that no one else can. This novel states that Alfarius' role in the galaxy is to safeguard humanity and the universe. Not the Emperor, not the Imperium, humanity. Legion, which is the 7th book in the Horus Heresy series, talks about Alfarius as he's confronted by the Eldar and the Cabal. Very slowly throughout the novel, he's convinced that a future is coming for humanity. A future where Horus turns traitor and burns a massive rent through the galaxy and eventually culminates in the Siege of Terra. This is a future with two options. One, either Horus wins and, humanity's overrun by chaos and then simply humanity dies out and snuffs out chaos along with it, because humanity's really the last major sentient race in the galaxy. Or the Emperor wins, and then humanity is left to tens of thousands of years of stagnation and decline and oppression. This idea is obviously proven true. So this very fear is what made Alfarius turn against the Imperium in the first place. Again, he's fighting against the Imperium. He's not fighting against humanity. He decided that it's more important for humanity to be wiped out in its prime rather than to be left for 10,000 years to just stagnate and die out and create one of the most oppressive regimes the universe has ever seen. When the Emperor fell, the soul of the Imperium dies with him. Just look at, if you have any Warhammer 40k book in your house, go to it and open up the first page. Open up the cover and look at the very first page in that book. Because it reads, "To be a man in such a time is to be one amongst untold billions. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. These are the tales of those times. Forget the power of technology and science, for so much has been forgotten, never to be relearned. Forget the promise of progress and understanding, for in the grimdark future there is only war. There is no peace amongst the stars, only an eternity of carnage and slaughter, and the laughter of thirsting gods." That is the core of 40k. That is the heart of the entire setting. The villanelle, rage, rage, rage against the dying of the light. That is the goal of humanity. It is not to fight off all of its enemies and rebuild, to become what it once was at the beginning of the Great Crusade. The whole point is to survive for as long as you can and fight back against the most brutal enemies the universe has ever made. This is the future that Alfarius wanted to avoid. He wanted to stop this bloody regime before it even started. He made the decision that it's better to let the humanity die than to let it twist into something so unbelievably dark and horrible. Because this was his job all along. In Praetorian of Dorne, which is book 39 in the Horus Heresy, Alpha Legion operatives awake Alpha Legionaries buried underneath Terra. Before the Alpha Legion even left their homeworld in the first 50 years of the Great Crusade, they had left legionaries behind to be activated if the Imperium needed help or needed to be brought down. These legionaries wake up with no memory, no understanding of who they are or where they are, but a single code word activates them to complete a specific task. I can't remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure the word that they use is Hecate, which is the Greek goddess of magic. This single word led the legionaries to infiltrate, bomb, and attack the Imperial Palace. They infiltrated the palace, not Terra, because they had never left. Alfarius and Omegon are the failsafes that are meant to bring the Imperium down if it evolves into something that it shouldn't be. The whole point is to find the weaknesses and the corruption and the taint inside the Imperium and tear it out wholeheartedly. That's who Alfarius is. He's stealthy because his job is to find these things and crush it before anybody even knows what it is. This is what he does so well, and this is why he's such a cool character. All of this is to say, yes, the Alpha Legions at time will help the Imperium, and yes, sometimes they'll act against it, but all of their actions are to serve humanity. They still believe that humanity should fall to purge their stagnant corruption, but there are times that simply helping people is better than not. In Shroud of Night, the Alpha Legion attack an Imperial planet. They are trying to steal, which is, essentially a mini Astronomicon, and they're trying to do it because Karn and other chaotic entities are coming to try to take it and corrupt it for themselves. So the Alpha Legionnaires, which are called the Harrow, land on the planet, they kill a whole bunch of people, and they get the device. But after this objective is complete, they help survivors flee into the webway. Again, they're fighting against the Imperium, but they're fighting for humanity. The Imperium is not the good guys. It is not, the heroic people that's coming to save the galaxy. The Imperium sucks. And the Alpha Legion knows this, so their entire point is to try to get rid of it and let it die. So no, there is no civil war within the Alpha Legion. People simply don't understand how complex and curious their chapter is. It's one of the reasons why I love them so much, and one of the reasons why this theory frustrates me so much. But it's about time I finish talking. We will see how this video does. If people respond to this very negatively, if they don't like it, then, I probably won't do it again. But if people do enjoy this and people have questions, or if they have other theories that they'd like me to talk about or look at, then I might start doing this. I may turn this into simply like a, fun facts about 40k, or I might talk about like a specific successor chapter, or maybe like a regiment that's of great renown, such as like the Katakan Jungle Fighters, something like that, where I can kind of just talk about random things without spending too much time on it, so I can continue working on stuff like, the Horus Heresy. But again, we'll just see how you guys react to it. If you guys like it, then I'm happy to make more. If you are still here after listening to this actually just rant video, Thank you for sticking around. I apologize, it's not what you're used to. I am planning on having a new video coming out in the next 3 or 4 days. But again, next week is my finals week, so this date may change. But again, thank you all for listening. I very much appreciate every single one of you that's still here and subscribes and likes everything, because you guys are why I do this. But thank you. Hope you all have a very good day.